And are you refreshed? Good. Now what? You've been talking to each other, haven't you?
We've been talking about you.
Begin right here.
Thanks. Hi. I'm very nervous. I've come from the UK to speak to you, Abraham. I've been listening to you for a long time, and every time I listen to you, I hear something different, which I think is amazing. But there's something that I really struggle to understand how to deal with in my life. I'm very successful in many aspects of my life, except for my family. I haven't spoken to quite a few members of my family for about 6 years. And
that may be why you're successful in so many other areas.
It might be.
We usually hear a very different story. The story usually goes, I'm in contact with my family every day and not much in my life is working.
Okay. That could make a lot of sense. And when I hear you talk to people about relationships, romantic relationships, I get that. You say, well, you're looking to somebody that isn't right to make you feel happy, and it's actually in your vortex. The qualities you want in a person are waiting in somebody else, and let go of the person that's making you unhappy. But
same with family.
Well, that's what I didn't know, whether that is the right thing. So I just have to let go of my family.
Well, here's the thing. If you let go of initially let go of the subjects that hold you out of the vortex until you've tuned yourself into the vortex, and then from inside the vortex focus on your family,
then I'd be out of the vortex again.
Maybe, and that is logical and maybe even likely. But there's also a possibility that once you're in the vortex and seeing them through the eyes of Source, it's possible for you to then, through your connection and attention to them, of helping to tune them closer to their vortex as well. In other words, that's what true upliftment is. Sometimes people will say to us after listening to us for a little while, Abraham, I feel so much better now, but those people at work are so negative, or the people I live with are so negative, or my mother is so negative. And they have a sort of guarded attitude, like those people will cause them to risk their connection. So it's like they want to avoid them because they don't believe that they can maintain their connection to Source and focus upon those people at the same time. And we say, well, you just have to become a better selective sifter. Once you have convinced yourself that your well-being is not tied to their approval or their opinion, that your well-being is only tied to your alignment, then you are free to focus wherever you want without running a big risk of losing alignment. But you have to shore up that alignment and practice it until it's steady and true to you, or you're true to it for a little while before you then are brave enough to venture into those areas that formerly took you into the darkness of outside the vortex. Want to talk about the primary culprit or subject that takes you out?
Well, it's
because,
yeah.
And the reason that we say that and are willing to play there with you for a little bit is because when you're really tuned to the vortex, you don't have this feeling about anyone. In other words, you don't feel at risk anymore. You don't feel vulnerable anymore. They're more like my amusing family than they are my threatening family. It's like, oh yeah, that crazy family of mine. They're all nuts and would like and would like me to be too. But you don't feel, it's not that gripping thing that was present just now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, my mum is probably the main person, and two siblings as well. And it all came about as a result of my father having a stroke, and everybody went crazy, basically. And I had to take over the family business. That created a lot of jealousy amongst the family that thought I was doing it for myself when I was doing it for my dad. And they were just awful.
Well, so it's a lot of misunderstanding. And it's interesting because, have you noticed, of course you have, that you can't reason with someone who's unreasonable. That's why they're called unreasonable. That's what unreasonable means. No matter how hard I try, I cannot reason with this person who is unreasonable. But what it's really talking about is it's different vibrational wavelengths. You can't be tuned to a higher frequency and really have effective communication with someone who is vibrating consistently at a lower frequency. Someone who's all wadded up in fear and angst and discomfort, someone who's predominantly been focusing upon what they do not want, and so they are experiencing a tremendous amount of negative emotion, is not going to be able to hear you or believe you when you try to present to them your perspective. It is a confounding thing to not be able to convey to someone what you mean. But if we were standing in any of your physical shoes, we really would give up trying to communicate to anyone what you really mean. Because no matter how well-meaning you are or how well-meaning they are, unless you're on a similar vibrational wavelength, the communication is not going to go that well anyway. So your best order of business is to align with the fullness of who you are, so that what you are projecting is at least in alignment with who you are. Mm-hmm. And then maybe they'll be in the vicinity of finding the clarity, and maybe they won't. But now it's up to them to tune into it, because you're tuned into it. In other words, you're not sacrificing your alignment for something that is impossible anyway. Mm. It's sort of, we're doing a sales job here with you about this vortex, and of course we think you're already sold on the idea of it, but it's like when you get tuned in and someone doesn't understand and they want to talk to you about where they are. Yeah. And you know that in order to communicate with them, you're going to have to march right out of the vortex, because they can't hear you from where you are. Mm. So it's not about not wanting to talk to them. It's about not wanting to have to introduce resistance into your own personal vibration in order to make the conversation meaningful, because you've tried talking to them. It wasn't that you were hiding from them. Mm. It wasn't that you were not willing to have a conversation. It was that the conversations were so unsatisfying because they couldn't hear you as you are. Yeah. So we think your first assumption is a pretty good one, of not trying the impossible. But here's something that we would do a little bit differently. We would get into the vortex, as you hear us say constantly, and practice being there by staying off of subjects that take you out until you're comfortable there. And then introduce into the vortex the subject of, start with your mother, the subject of your mother, in an attitude that you are going to focus upon her positive aspects, of which there are many. And as you, from inside your vortex, focus, light up for yourself the positive aspects of your mother, what will happen is, because she is not out of the vortex all the time, more than you'd like her to be and more than you are, but not all of the time. If you are able to establish a steady, from inside the vortex, vibrational attitude about your mother, sooner or later, and it will be sooner, you'll catch her on an in the vortex moment. We're not saying that you'll be sitting in her living room when it happens. We're saying that somewhere in the cosmos, you'll be in the vortex thinking about your mother, and your mother will be in the vortex too. And when that happens, she will have a feeling of appreciation about you that matches your feeling of appreciation about her. In other words, this is the way you mend that. But if you march out of the vortex and confront her, now the whole thing breaks down, because first of all, you have nowhere to lead her. And next, your resentment about being out there where you don't feel good looms large, and nothing is accomplished. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So we have some questions for you. Do you believe that it is necessary for your happiness to make peace with your mother and your siblings?
I don't know.
Well, we don't think it's necessary, but we think your happiness is more logical once you make peace with them, because we think it is illogical for you not to think about them. If you could say, no, I can just never think about them again, then we would say, then go, butterfly, live happily ever after. Because you don't hold any responsibility to that. But we don't think that's logical, because they are an important part of your life. And so much that is you, that is in the vortex, they were instrumental in helping you put there. You have a new and improved version of you and them and your relationship with all things, including them, in your vortex. So it's not logical that you will never think about them again. So you really have to tune yourself to the frequency of what's in the vortex, and here it is. When you live up to the frequency that's in the vortex, you've done your work. You've done your work. In fact, your unhappiness is never because of something that they're doing. It's always because of something you're thinking. They don't have the ability. No one has the ability, no matter how bad they be, to drag you out of the vortex. It's always your perspective of them that's dragged you out. And the only reason that your perspective of anyone drags you out of the vortex is because your inner being's perspective of them is different in the vortex. Ooh. So, let's start over with this conversation. Abraham, I'd like to talk to you about my mother and a couple of siblings who I have not practiced the in the vortex vibration of them enough to be solid in the vortex. So when I think about them, I let the what isness and the what has beenness of our relationship dominate, and it takes me out of the vortex. What should I do? We say, get in there and practice more. And you say, but shouldn't they change? And we say, it's unlikely. Whether they should or shouldn't is not the question. Will they or won't they? It's unlikely. But what does that matter to me? Do others need to change so that I can feel better? Gladly, no. Others don't need to change so that you can feel better. But you do have to rework your perspective of them. So you were practicing an out of the vortex conversation about them just now. You said it was horrible. You said they chose to see me as selfishly trying to feather my own nest. They didn't understand that everything I was doing for the business and for my dad. You were practicing a conversation that says they don't see me as I want them to see me. Well, you're not ever going to feel good. Whether they are or whether they aren't is irrelevant. It's what you're choosing to think about what they think that has you out of the vortex. So Abraham, are you really encouraging me to just make stuff up? Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're encouraging you to because hear this. When we say you create your own reality, that's what we mean. You make stuff up. That's what creating your own reality is. In other words, you get to create it the way you want it to be. We're not saying focus on reality as it is and just regurgitate more of that stuff. We're saying you create your own reality. It's in the vortex, you see. So you are wanting to activate within yourself vibrations that match the way your inner being sees them. And so you give them the benefit of the doubt. You say, it was hard on all of us when my dad had his stroke. It upended all of us. We didn't know it, but we were all using him for all of our feedback about how we were doing. And when we stopped getting that domineering feedback from dad, we all lost our way. And we say, good. Because he wasn't the one who was supposed to be giving you your feedback anyway. It was supposed to be coming from your inner being. That was the way you planned it. In other words, you just gave it to him temporarily, and you all found out that that wasn't a very good idea because humans are fickle. They stroke out on you. Or they find other objects of attention, or they stop thinking about you, or they don't give you their undivided attention all day, every day. And so the whole family, we are putting words in your mouth to help you give yourself and all of them the benefit of the doubt. We didn't know about the vortex. We didn't really know about our inner being. We looked to Dad for nods of approval and how we were doing. And when he was no longer there in that strong way for us, where we all sort of lost our way. Jerry and Esther remember the day the last rooster croaked in their hen yard, and the hens were a mess. As Luke would say, seriously. They were a mess. They were looking to the rooster for much of their guidance, and when there wasn't a rooster, they seemingly didn't know what to do for a little while until one of the hens decided to take over. Just a little aside. Well, we're just pointing out that it's easy to even spend decades looking for guidance in the wrong place, looking for love in the wrong place, looking for stability in the wrong place. So we're standing in your shoes, giving myself and my family the benefit of the doubt by saying, of course we were upended by this. But now we have this opportunity to find stability. And this is a wonderful gift that Dad has given all of us, because he not only has entrusted me with the business, but I can feel that I have been entrusted with the guidance of the family. Only I now know that I'm going to play it differently. I'm not going to stand in a leadership role giving nods of approval. I'm going to lead by example of alignment with my own source. I'm going to be happy regardless of how they feel about me. And I'm going to love them regardless of whether they love me back. I'm going to love them because I'm a lover, not because I'm trying to earn love with love. I'm going to appreciate them because I'm an appreciator, not because they are overtly offering behavior that is worthy of appreciation. I'm going to appreciate them because that's what feels best to me, and because that's what the source within me does. And it's our promise to you that as you know this, and we can feel you knowing it as we speak it, as you practice those, get a notebook and write their names at the top of a page and just write things that you appreciate. And it is our promise to you, their behavior will change. And their behavior will change toward you, not because you are manipulating them, but because you're practicing a consistent vibration that tunes you to the powerful alignment with source. And when you get in sync with source and focus on someone, you make great headway in their understanding of who they are. You see, when you find a reason to appreciate someone who isn't used to being appreciated and who is not used to appreciating, but you consistently appreciate them, before long, others will begin to appreciate them too. In other words, the whole thing just moves upward in terms of vibrational clarity. And it is our promise to you that there will be a day that they will say to you, we can feel the leadership that you are providing to this family, and we are glad that you were there.
Thank you.
Something more?
No, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Good. Further back? Yes.